Hi. Hi, this is Samir Palnitkar, the founder of Growth Oxygen. And today we are going to talk about how to build a financial model for a business. Uh, so the first question typically is, why should we even think about it? And the reason is because I've worked with a lot of different businesses and companies, and the founders or the executives typically have a bunch of questions, typically the founders. So most companies are started out of passion. They build a product or a service without clear financial objectives. They spend many years pursuing the startup without clear financial gain, and they're confused about the path forward. Will my startup make money? If yes, how and how much? When should I raise money? I mean, you're looking at all the hype and thinking I should go immediately raise money, but is that even possible? I've invested so much money and time, so should I abandon it or should I stick with it? How do I run my company efficiently? And I see a lot of this confusion. And the reason is they've never built a clear financial model with the perspective of making money for the business. And that is why today we will talk about how to build a good financial model. And what it means is it is a complete planning of the company finances for 3 years. It is profit and loss by month, available cash by month, revenue growth, leads, headcount, customer growth churn, and any other assumptions that can be validated in the market. I don't want to make this simply a theoretical exercise. These are assumptions that can be validated in the market. Keep the financial model complete, but rather simple. Uh, uh, and when should you build it? So my recommendation is you should build it as early as possible based on your assumptions at that time. Even if you're making a lot of assumptions, it is better than not doing anything at all. It will give you much better clarity on your business and help you clarify your thinking of how you're going to run it. So why should you do it? It gives you a very clear idea of whether the business is even worth doing. When you're at the beginning, it helps you clarify your thinking. Should I go into this? Should I not? What does it mean to me financially? It acts as a great business plan template. It helps you clarify your thinking and how to run the various departments of the company. It also gives investors a very clear idea on the size of the opportunity. It also provides clear objectives for the company, every department, because you have included them in the planning. It gives you clear guidance on pricing, overall company strategy, and helps you balance growth and profitability while managing cash. So the earlier you do it, the better. Even if you're very new at it, it is better to put this thought in advance so that you don't spend valuable years of your life and then realize this was not worth doing or it's not working out. So in order to do that, the first thing you need to do is to do the revenue model. And the way you do the revenue model, I've done this for a B2B tech startup. This flow will be, or the funnel of how you generate revenues will be completely different for every company. And you need to spend time thinking and creating a flow chart for your own business. So typically at the highest level, you'll figure out how to do the leads, the inbound marketing, outbound marketing, partner marketing, and get raw leads through the door, people who will make inquiries about, I'm interested in this product or service. Then the inside sales team actually calls the customer and does what is called a band qualification: budget, authority, need, and timing, to make sure that this lead is worth pursuing. If they don't match any of those criteria, maybe this is not the right time to go after them, or maybe this is not the right type of company to go after. So you look at a lot of these things, and that leads to marketing qualified leads. Then from that point on, the sales team actually takes over, does a demo presentation, meets them, whatever it has to do, and converts that into a sales qualified lead if they feel that the sales team should spend more time on it. And after they have a sales qualified lead, they will do persistent follow-ups, work on them, meet them, convince them, and that gets them to sales closure. And after the sales closure, there is again persistent follow-up, New agreements may be signed for add-on modules and stuff like that. And that leads to net revenue retention, which means if the customer was paying me $100 in year one, how much money will they pay me in year two? Will it be $95 or $110? So that depends on how good are you at managing your existing set of customers. And that's a part of the customer success or the account management team's responsibility. So this is the modeling that I have done for a B2B tech startup, just to frame the context. But it will be completely different for your company, but you should build this funnel and understand exactly how you're going to get the leads and from where. This is a critical step. And then again, for a B2B tech startup, the key metrics to measure could be things like the annual contract value, raw cost per lead, the cost per MQL, SQL, customer acquisition cost, lifetime value. So again, different for different companies. So now what we will do is we will jump into the financial model, and I will show you what I've built for this B2B tech startup. You should then think about building a similar financial model for your company based on this. Download it, modify it. It will be completely different, but my sheet will just help you with a starting point, and then you should create a similar sheet for yourself so you get a very clear understanding of the business. So for a moment, let's jump into the financial model. The financial model has really 4 worksheets that you see right here. The first is the parameters worksheet. These are all the independent parameters that are required for the sales funnel, the revenue, the business model, and so on. And this is where you write down your assumptions and do certain calculations, make certain assumptions, saying, these are the parameters that are important for me to run my business. Based on those parameters, then you build monthly estimates, which talks about leads, closures, revenue, headcount, expenses. They're simply based on the formulas applied on the parameter sheet. And then based on the monthly estimates, you build the P&L and the income statement, which shows you revenues, expenses, net income, and how your cash is going to track over a 3-year period. So these are the 4 sheets that you will see in this financial model. The conventions we use are, if you see a blue font, that means it's an independent variable. And these are variables that can be changed to do a what-if analysis. You can play around with it freely, but these are your assumptions. And they can be questioned, they can be validated, they can be changed, they can be played around with to see in what scenario, how your company does. The black font indicates a dependent value, and this value is derived using a formula applied to the independent variables. So let's take a look at the parameter sheet. The first thing I put, and remember again, this parameter sheet is for a B2B tech startup. It's a simplified sheet. I again recommend that you think through what this sheet will look like for your business, what the parameters are, and so on. So the first thing is, I said, let's say if we raise $5 million, my annual contract value is $25,000. A cost per raw lead is 300. Initial raw leads will be 300 per month in the first month. Because I'm going to do a big splash kind of marketing right away based on the $5 million I raised. My yearly growth in leads will be 30%, which means this leads to a 2.21 monthly growth compounded. This is, again, remember, the blue variables are independent. Do not touch the black variables. You should follow a similar convention for your own sheet. The raw lead to MQL conversion, I'm assuming, is 50%. MQL to SQL conversion by the insights, by the sales team is going to be about 25%. The SQL to sales closure by the sales team is 33%, which means for every 1 raw lead or every 24 raw leads, you're going to get 1 closure. And I'm also assuming that the net revenue retention is 97%, which means that if the customer pays me $100 in year 1, they will pay me $97 in year 2. Ideally, for a good company, this NRR rate should be higher than 100%. Now, this works for recurring revenue companies, but even for non-recurring revenue companies, you can make certain assumptions that will kind of lead to okay. So I'm coming back to this spreadsheet. So the monthly net revenue retention is computed based on the yearly net revenue retention, and the cost per MQL SQL are all computed values. Remember, the ROI just means that I got a $25,000 contract value based on a spend of $7,200, which means the ROI was 3.47%. Typically, for great businesses, any ROI which is greater than 1.5 is a great ROI. The other thing is the payback period, that is typically 12 divided by the ROI. That's typically how the payback period works. Another way to think about it is I got $25,000 a year, and I only spent $7,200 acquiring the customer, which means the customer paid for themselves in a period of 3.46 months, assuming that you get about 2,100 per month. That's kind of how it is computed. Then I had headcount requirements. The salespeople, I also set up quotas saying what is the volume of sales closures per month, inside sales, marketing people, these are their targets, and how much revenue volume the customer success. So that will determine what my headcount requirements are based on the revenue level. Okay. And then their monthly compensation, I've used a US dollars as the term, and the number of months they will need to be effective, which is they will need about 3 months. Okay. So from the time I hire, it will be 3 months before I see any sales closures or any inside sales conversion to SQLs, which means I have to hire 3 months earlier. Okay. And similarly, I have for the engineering, admin, HR, and executives, I have written down what the likely comps are likely to be. And then there are other costs like server costs, office costs, travel costs. And to keep things simple, I've used them, I've computed them as a percentage of the overall revenue. I know it's a simplistic assumptions, but I urge you not to make your model too complicated. This has to be a basis for your company, but don't make it a self-fulfilling exercise, which will become so complicated that you cannot play with it. Keep things simple. Okay, so this is how I build the parameter sheet. You should do something similarly for your own business. Okay, then based on that, you will end up with monthly estimates. And the first thing you look at is leads. So I assume that I start with 300 raw leads. And then month after month, it grows based on the growth rate I put in the parameter sheet. And then based on the conversion metrics, I have the number of sales closures every month. And then I have two types of revenue. One is new revenue and existing revenue. So existing revenue is customers that I already have. A part of them will churn, and that revenue will slowly decrease because it's 97%. If that number is higher than 100%, then it will actually grow year after year. So the total revenue is the new revenue, which is this, plus the old revenue from the existing customers. And that's how your revenue builds up total. Okay? So this is the monthly revenue. And then you compute the headcount. Now, what I've done is for these positions, I have computed the headcount based on the parameter sheet, which is their quotas. How many closures will a sales guy do? How many SQLs will an inside sales guy generate every month, and so on. And based on how I change these parameters, the headcount will automatically change. And that's important because if you're targeting a very high growth rate, then these numbers are likely to change. Now, conversely, engineering, admin, HR, and executive do not scale with the revenue. So I put them in manually based on what I feel is right in terms of the size of the engineering team or some of these other functions. And then based on this headcount and the compensation that I have assumed in the parameter sheet, I come up with a monthly cost of headcount. Okay, remember again, the blue parameters are independent variables. You can touch them, but the black ones are computed, so don't mess with them, and follow a similar convention in your spreadsheet. Then you have other costs. Again, these are simply costs as a percentage of revenue, and these add up. And then based on this, you come up with the P&L or income statement, which is the total revenue, which is the existing revenue plus the new revenue from the monthly estimate sheet. You have the headcount costs from the monthly estimate sheet. You have other costs from the monthly estimate sheet. And now you can calculate net income as revenue minus headcount costs minus other costs. And this is how much money you're losing every month. If you started off with $5 million, then you're going to see your cash slowly drain out, and you will basically, on Jan 28th, you will have the least amount of cash, but then you will start becoming profitable. So you will see how the cash grows back up again. So this gives you an idea of how much money you should raise. And then you also create yearly projections in terms of revenue, expenses, net income, and that gives you an idea of the cash at the end of the year. You should also compute the profitability and growth and compute the Rule of 40 score, which I'll explain in a moment. It's the profitability, typically either EBITDA or PAT, plus the growth percentage. That is important. So you balance out. If you have high growth, it is okay to have low profitability or vice versa, but you can't have low growth and low profitability. Okay, that's an area of concern. So that's generally, again, going back, you build the parameter sheet, the monthly estimates, and the P&L and the income statement. Again, we've kept it very simple. Now you can get as complicated as you want, but my recommendation, don't spend a ton of time or money. Don't hire a CPA because they tend to get very technical with these things. But if you have a competent CPA who is pragmatic, then absolutely use their help. But otherwise, try to do this yourself because you're really validating and questioning your assumptions. Okay. At this point of time, let me then go back to so I've explained what the financial model spreadsheet is. My recommendation is take this screenshot, go to this URL by scanning this QR code and download the sheet, customize it for yourself. Okay, I'm going to give it 30 seconds for you to take a photo of this QR code. And how do you customize the financial model for your company? So first, as I said, build a parameter sheet, include all assumptions, validate these assumptions, talk to a bunch of people. You should include sales, marketing, engineering, customer success, HR, other departments, whatever you have. And each business will have a very unique set of parameters to consider. So what I've given you is simply a template. You will have to be creative about what these parameters are for your business because you know it well. And my important advice is be realistic and honest. You should be able to support each assumption. This is simply not a spreadsheet for raising money. This is to be true to yourself and get a realistic idea of what this business really needs. Then you build the monthly estimate sheet for leads, sales, revenues, costs, and finally build the P&L sheet for 36 months. So you will have revenue, expenses, and cash available. You also create yearly estimates, so it gives you a nice summary, and compute the Rule of 40 scores. So what is the Rule of 40 score? So this was built for B2B SaaS businesses originally, but I find that to be highly valuable. You could use a Rule of 50 or a Rule of 60, but a Rule of 40 is considered good, which means if the growth rate of a company and the profit margin, if you add those up on a yearly basis, that should be at least 40%. That's what the Rule of 40 says. And therefore, I would much rather have either the growth rate be high, only then the profit margin can be negative or low, or the profit margin can be high with a low growth rate, but you can't have low growth rate and low profit margins. So you should have those add up to at least 40. Otherwise, you should question how you run your business. Okay, that's the Rule of 40 score. So how do you use this financial model? So my thinking is create this customized financial model, think through it, talk to people, talk to your founders, build this. You should not spend more than a couple of weeks doing it. Don't spend weeks after weeks doing this. Do this in the as quickly as possible, and then refine it as you go. So how do you use it? You can do what if scenarios, saying if I raise so much money, what will it mean? Or if I increase my growth rate significantly, how much cash drain will I have? Or how will my profitability look like? Or if I don't want to raise money, I only want profitability, then how should I model? So it will help you decide which financial scenario works best for your company. All the founders should kind of discuss these financial scenarios and make peace with this financial scenario. You should revise the sheet every 6 months to make sure that your assumptions are being constantly updated. And then you set up targets for various company departments using this sheet as a basis, saying, Mr. Sales, you need to complete at least 5 sales closures every month. Or inside sales team, you need to do at least 10. And as you go along, you can question your assumptions, modify the sheet, and continue to modify and play with the targets. That's how you tighten the company operations to optimize growth and profitability while conserving cash. Finally, you track your company performance against the sheet, modify your assumptions, and you confidently run your company based on the amount of thought you are given in this model. And then you can also use this model to pitch confidently to the investors because you have actual experience running the company with this sheet. And you have an idea saying, hey, this is a $50 million company in 5 years or a $20 million company in 3 years. And you can make projections. So that's how you use this financial model. So again, this is how you build the financial model for a startup. I hope this has been a useful presentation. Let me know if you have any questions.